Welcome to Shine Your Light, where we humanize the conversation and speak on topics that can expand our minds while sharing our own truth.
Hi, Sahil. How are you? So, I am so excited today because I've got a good friend of mine, a leading coach, an author, a mountaineer. Saahil Mehta. You have been all over the place, buddy, and you're known for all this magic you do with removing clutter. You have this amazing book called Break Free, and there's so much to you. And today was the timing was perfect because we are in Christmas, the end of the year. There's so much that we want to leave behind after 2020, but there's so many things that 2020 have also taught us. And I couldn't have shared this space with anybody better than my good friend Sahil. So I'm so happy to have you here, buddy.
It's an absolute pleasure to be here, Rajiv.
So Sahil, we have interacted. We've spoken a lot. We've co-created programs, and I know we're coming together with some amazing things in 2021. But today I wanted to talk about, breaking free from 2020. Man, 2020 has been one of those years which, has really changed maybe what we knew reality to be. For many of us, it's been really challenging. For some of us, it's been a moment when we look back and wonder, wow, has this really happened, right? And it is people like yourself who put things like this in perspective and tell us, listen, yes, it has happened. There is a lot of stuff happening, but find your balance. There's things you can do, right? So tell me about 2020 for you. How has it been so far?
So it's like you said, Rajiv, it's been a whirlwind of a year. I mean, it started with one of the best quarters we've had in our business, down to the worst 9 months we've ever seen, right? I mean, it's been enjoying with family and then having many family members pass away and not even being able to visit them and pay respects, and be with our extended family during those crazy times. So it's been a complete whirlwind. But in all of this, there's also some goodness that has come out. And, whenever I'm climbing a mountain, you can imagine as you go up, you have your peaks and you have your valleys, right? And you've hit many peaks along the way in life. But when you're in that valley, all you can see is the darkness around you. You're not seeing the peaks that you've hit. You don't see the summit that's ahead of you. It's easy to get lost in there. But we have to keep reminding ourselves that, yes, this too shall pass. And I may be in this valley right now, but I've hit so many peaks in the past, and there's many more that I'm going to hit in the future.
That's powerful. That's a very powerful way to look at it. I do acknowledge that. I mean, there has been times this year where a lot of us, have dealt with so much, but the way you said that, when you talk about the peaks, with a lot of the challenges have also come a lot of the lessons. And I love that perspective switch, to be able to stand in a place where you can actually look at it and say, listen, what else can I have learned, or what else can I learn from this year while I see the year coming to an end now and the new opportunity opening up with the next year. But Sahil, before we talk about that, because I know there's so much we're going to talk about, I love, your story, because you, like me, have gone through quite a transition. But yours is so exciting because there was this whole journey of mountaineering in it. So if I can spend some time, talking to you about that, let's talk about this. I mean, how did you, as an entrepreneur, you're an entrepreneur, you're running your business, and then tell me this transition. How did you get into the space of coaching, decluttering, and now with Break Free? Tell me this journey. How did this happen?
Yeah, it's a crazy story, Rajiv. So, I'm sure you can relate to this, but I was pulled in all directions. I felt I was constantly busy, but yet I was making little progress. and no matter what was going on, even if good things were happening, I still felt a little empty inside. But I just took that as me. I said, perhaps this is just me, and accepted me for who I was. But all that changed. I was on a trip with some friends, and we agreed to one thing. And we said there'd be no judgment.
Okay.
Now, I'm sure you're aware, there's masks that people are wearing, right? And the most common ones that I found in my coaching is, I am better than, I am worse than, I deserve. And then there's one, which is the one that I was wearing, which is more about pleasing others. Essentially, I was shunning away confrontation.
Right.
Confrontation on conversations as well as decisions. Why? Because of fear, right? That was holding me back. But as I unmasked on this trip, I had 4 amazing days, and I couldn't remember the last time I felt this way. And as I was reflecting on my flight back to Dubai, because I wanted to share all this with my wife, I was very vulnerable, and I realized, and I started asking myself, I said, Saahil, who have you become? Who are you? I can't even recognize you anymore. You have so many layers on top of you that the real you, it can't shine anymore. I love your concept of shining a light. Each and every one is this light which is shining bright. But we keep putting all these layers of cloths on front, over it, and eventually it starts to dim. But the light is still shining bright. It's just a matter of decluttering, of removing these layers one at a time, so that our light can shine brightly once again.
I love that. Well said.
And so when I came back, I said, let me remove this clutter. Let me identify this clutter that's holding me down, preventing me from greatness and from shining my light. And as I started doing this, my life began to change. Relationships improved, work improved, my health improved, and I was in such a good space. And as people saw this around me, they'd be asking, Saahil, what's going on? We see this, you're glowing, like, what's going on? What's your secret? And as I started to share, someone came up to me one day and said, listen, don't keep this to yourself. Share with others. Because what you have learned over the last few years of decluttering your life can have a positive impact on someone else. And I was like, of course. How powerful is it to help another person shine their light and put a smile on their face? And it was almost like a calling, but before I wasn't listening. This time I said, I have to pay attention to the message and act upon it. And that's how the journey began.
So Saahil, I'm going to interrupt you in bits and pieces because there's so much gold in some of the stuff you're throwing our way. One of the key things I heard you say is, as you went on this journey and as you started, you started to, I'm going to use a different word here, but it's like almost paying attention suddenly. You started to see things you hadn't seen. And in essence, it was your awareness coming into focus now, moving towards this new information that as you started to apply, and again, moving to how your life was showing up, it started to reflect in your daily life and in things that you're involved with. This is what I heard so far. How's that? Is that resonate? Is that what?
Absolutely. Awareness, Rajiv, is so key. I used to run through life and I did not stop and stare and look around and see what a beautiful environment we live in. Just stop and say, wow, wow, wow. Because I was always running. It's like when you're driving a car through beautiful nature, you don't get to see the trees and the flowers and the birds singing and all of that because you're just zipping by. But if you just pause, and this is what awareness is about, right? It's, in general, something happens and then you react.
Yeah.
And sometimes you react with emotion, or in many cases you react with emotion. But how about we add a third step? Instead of reacting, let's pause. Let's be aware of what's going on inside of us, our emotional levels. And then rather than react, we respond consciously.
Correct.
Right? Because how many times have people said something and it's triggered something in you, right? You get angry, you get jealous, you get overwhelmed, whatever it might be. And then you do something or say something, and then you look back and go, ooh, I wish I didn't do that. Or I wish I didn't say that. But by adding that third step, pause, and being more aware of your of your emotional self, you have the ability to respond. And you can then respond consciously as opposed to reacting.
And I'm going to now bring that back to the mountain for a second. And the importance of pausing in your experience in that mountain. I'm sure that as you're going through, because now we're talking about, just tell everyone the mountain, because did we mention the name of the mountain in this? Wasn't it Kilimanjaro? Was that the one? What was the name of the mountain?
Kilimanjaro. That was one of the first. That was the second mountain I climbed. Yes.
Right. So here you are, and when you're actually in this journey, obviously you're applying it. I mean, these are lessons that, while you take it away, now you're applying it in your life. But if you go back and zoom back on that mountain, everything you're doing, you have to be in the moment, and you have to be in awareness of where you're putting your feet, your arms, your legs. I mean, and pausing applies, doesn't it? I mean, so it was a lesson you were learning.
Absolutely. I mean, if your mind is somewhere else and you're not aware, you increase your chance of injury. And we certainly don't want that happening when you're a few thousand meters above sea level, making it very difficult to get to, any sort of medical assistance. Awareness and being present is absolutely key.
Saahil,
But
I want to now,
thing, Rajiv, when you're there in the mountain, you don't have distractions.
right?
Well, you do. You have the beautiful nature around you, but that's it, right? You don't have you don't have thoughts zipping through your head at 1,000 miles an hour. You slow down. You're able to reflect, because when you're climbing a mountain, even though you're climbing with other people, there are moments of silence, because perhaps it's windy or it's hard, and you're just struggling. So you're just with yourself. How often are you spending time with yourself?
Absolutely.
Right? I mean, most people, they get up in the morning, it's get ready, run. If you have kids, get them ready, drop them to school, work out, get ready, go to the office, work, lunch, work, go home, kids, put them to bed, spend some time with your spouse, go to sleep. Where was me time?
Absolutely. And I've been just jumping in. I was trying to add one thing with what you're saying to me, because it reflects with the work that you're doing and how it transformed in your work you're doing. But when you're on that mountain, you spoke about nature and your attention, when you were living your life, and this is before your experience, when you were living your life, everything was coming at you, right? But because so much is happening, we're busy doing, correct? We're busy doing, and in the distraction of doing, we can't be. But now on the mountain, you suddenly are put in a position where all these distractions have laid out, because obviously your phone isn't ringing, right? I mean, I'm assuming you didn't take your phone. So here you are on a mountain, and now you have time for yourself. And you started noticing these things. But the key thing that I want to point here, because you said it, and I want to bring emphasis on this, is you spoke about awareness, you spoke about pausing, you notice all this nature. Where did that connection happen for you? Is it because your mind became still? And that's when your thoughts go, wait a second. How did that, when we talk about the light, we talk about the layer uncovering the light. In this experience, when you were how did that suddenly hit you? What was that switch on right there when you started noticing? Or what was it that made you notice?
I always say, if your cup is full, you can't fill in any more water. So when you're on the mountains, your mind becomes more cleared, right? There's not as much going through your head. And when that happens, space is created. And when space is created, it allows for new things to enter. And that allows you to really think and focus on what matters in life.
Yes.
And that's the beauty. It's all about emptying in order to allow new things to enter.
Yes.
And so without all the distractions, my mind was a lot more at ease. Especially, I don't know about you, but when I hear running water, when I hear the birds, when I hear the wind through the trees, it's very soothing, right? Absolutely. And it just calms you down.
It's a very powerful space. Nature is God's gift to us, and we we often, I always tell everyone, even when we do work with our clients, I'll tell them, listen, go out in nature. When you feel everything flying at 100 miles an hour, slow things down, get into nature. Sometimes it's the simple things, like you said, listening to the mountains, to the rivers in the mountains, even just, and I know it came out listening to the mountains, but wind, when you're sitting there, you're listening to the sound of wind, just nature doing its thing. It's so grand. And you can see your position in this world in harmony with everything at the same time. And it's so beautiful and humbling, isn't it, Saahil? Suddenly the world doesn't revolve around us, and we are just part of it. And it's so beautiful. Yet,
absolutely. And I'd love to add, if there's one big thing that 2020 taught us, is slowing down doesn't mean you can't get the same amount done.
Correct.
I've heard so many people as I've had conversations with them, and I'm talking about leaders, C-suite in corporations or entrepreneurs, who are telling me, Saahil, I'm getting more done in less time.
Yeah.
And I'm able to enjoy and bring back some of the hobbies that I've pushed back for so long.
Correct.
Imagine that.
Absolutely.
If you go to the gym and you're just constantly lifting weights, your body is going to get tired and you're not going to perform at the same level.
That's right.
You need to give it a break. You need to slow it down. And this year has taught me, and I've seen how it's taught others, that by slowing down, you rest and then you come back stronger, and you can be more productive, and you're just getting better and better results. I mean, one specific example, I have a friend who, instead of getting home at 9 p.m. every day, he now gets home at 7 p.m. every day, is getting more work done, and now spending more time with the family, so the kids and the wife are super happy too. I mean, what a perfect equation.
And what does that tell you? It tells you that when you are, when you're not filling up your cup of water, you're completely over swamped. You have time to take everything in and give it its own space. You're able to, prioritize. You're able to also bring in the things you love, because that's, when we talk about leadership, or we talk about conscious leadership, you're talking about operating through a space where you can be yourself. And through that, you will perform better. So that a lot of times this concept of, and I don't want to take us away from this conversation. I love your conversations, but I quickly going to the point of, before, when everyone's busy, multitasking is like a natural bad habit, right? Now, people aren't multitasking as much. So they're actually able to get things done, plan it out, do it at no pace. And they realize they are much more productive, and they're actually able to accomplish much more. And we have been taught to be more efficient now than we've ever been, because communication has to be sharp now. But before we continue this, I'm going to now take you to part 2 of your climbing experience, because I'm building on this journey of yours.
So before you do, I would like to give one quick.
You want to? Okay, jump in and then we'll do it.
Right? I would love for everyone who's listening to get a piece of paper and pen and do the following exercise. Now, we know there are 26 letters in the alphabet. So you have to write 1 to 26 as fast as you can, and then A to Z. And you time that and see how quickly you can do it. Repeat the exercise and go A1, B2, C3, D4, all the way till Z26, and see how long that takes. And there you will see the difference between focusing on one task at a time versus multitasking, and how less efficient it is. So for all the people who say, I'm amazing at multitasking, I would love to see you to hear about how fast you completed the second one, because I'm 100% sure it's going to be slower than the first exercise.
That's a good one. That's a good one. So I want to take you now, with your permission, back to the mountain for a sec. And here we are. So you're tapping into your awareness. You're starting to notice as you pause. Your mind is now, bringing in information, new information that is coming your way. And of course, we spoke about the importance of that. But you also started to realize that there's stuff that wasn't serving you. Yeah, which you identified and you labeled as clutter, right? Now, Could you expand now on this journey? So here we've gone into awareness, and then you find stuff that doesn't serve you. Let's talk about that for a bit.
Rajiv, I've spent a total of 33 days on the mountain across 4 trips. I had maybe 15 kilos of luggage with me, maybe a little bit more.
Right.
And each time that would carry me through the week. So when we say, I need this, I need that, I need this, I need that, we had very little. And yet we were so content. We were so happy.
Right.
You know? And the funny thing is, on Kilimanjaro specifically, because you mentioned it, I was having dinner with the other 5 climbers who all happened to be women, one of them my wife. And I asked all of them, what do you miss the most? All of them, without hesitation, kids. Not one mentioned the husband. But jokes aside, I said, what do you miss the most, excluding people? And the 3 most common answers were bed, running water, and a warm room. Nobody thought about the fancy car or the fancy watch or the fancy accessories, nothing. And that's when it hit me. How often are we grateful for these things that we take for granted? Or at least I was taking for granted. I couldn't remember the last time I was grateful for a bed, but it's only when it's taken away temporarily did you realize, oh my goodness, that mattress it means the world to me. I still remember the first day back, we got to a hotel after successfully completing our climb. I was in the shower, and look, I'm eco-friendly, usually have short showers, but I was in that shower for at least 15 minutes. I was just so happy to have water. I slept like a baby that night. I was so happy to have that comfortable bed and pillow. But that's where it hit me that, I keep saying, I want this, I want that. Sorry, I need this, I need that. But these aren't needs. Most of the needs that I had were actually desires. They were wants. The needs are really the necessities. Food, shelter, basic clothing. And that's when I came back and I said, my goodness, I have way too much stuff. And I'm not even using it all. It's not even, serving a purpose in my life. So here's the thing. If it's not essential and adding any function, it's time to give it to someone where it can be of benefit in their life and put a smile on their face. So not only was I getting rid of stuff that I just don't need, because they were in reality wants and desires, I was also doing good by giving to others and putting smiles on their face.
Saahil, I'm going to have to stop you. I'm going to stop you for a second, bro, because again, I have to, you keep on throwing gold our way, and I've got to take it in little bites, okay? And then we got to just digest it for a second. But just let me appreciate that statement. I mean, it's a beautiful statement. And with your permission, we'll talk about wants and needs real quick, because it's a beautiful statement. And, you take something that doesn't have purpose in your life, give it away to someone, can use it and have it, and it, it's part of it could be purpose for them. Beautiful, man. It's beautiful. But this year, bringing it back to this year real quick, I throw it to you that this is where a lot of us have figured out the difference between wants and needs, right? There were so many things that we thought you needed. And then comes this pandemic, and then we realize, wait a second, I can live without it, because some things are not available, right? Maybe your regular supply chain doesn't show up, you don't get your favorite snack, I don't know, whatever it is, and suddenly now you don't need it. So you nailed that. You nailed it. Even in now, when people say, oh, these conversations are great, it's very inspirational and motivational, but how do I apply it? Well, I mean, here it is. Here's an example of 2020, this year, where suddenly things changed. And yeah, for some time, there was situations where you have shortages or something or the other, and then you realize the difference between a need and a want. And I've had this conversation with leaders. I've had this conversation with, just about everyone. And everyone would say the same thing, is eventually, yeah, Raj, you're right. There's so many things we thought we needed, right? So that's exactly back to your point. We thought we needed it till we thought about it, brought it to our awareness, and we realized, wait, we really don't need it. We want it, but does it impact our life? Not really. So thank you for that. It's a brilliant point.
Absolutely.
Now, we talk about, so I brought you back from, so you spoke about you've now reached the point where you saw the difference between need and want, and you saw that in your life, and you said, okay, this is what we call clutter. Yeah? Because I want to bring you now to the clutter. This is the meat and bones of a lot of the stuff you're doing as well. And so you start going, okay, this is stuff that really we may not need. Let us identify what we need and what we want. Should we talk about that a bit?
Let's do it.
Do it. Tell me about that.
So Rajiv, the first thing I want to highlight, this doesn't just refer to the physical world. It's also clutter that's in our minds. It's also clutter which is in our body. Could be health challenges that we're facing. It's also clutter that's between relationships that are causing us to, have strained relationships, whether it's with colleagues or loved ones. So it's about identifying in each of those different areas and finding out what is holding you back. Because again, coming back to the shine your light, we want you to shine so bright, but there's something that's covering it and we need to identify it. But only if we're aware and we can identify, can we then take the next step of cutting ourselves and breaking free from it.
I love that. I, again, going to acknowledge that for a second. I mean, you said it so brilliantly. Cut yourself and break free. Break free. Give yourself the wings. Uncover that light. Well
because
said.
What is clutter? Let's define that quickly. Clutter is nothing more than shunned confrontations. Confrontation with self, which could be your mind, your body. Confrontation with other people. Confrontation of making decisions. And many times it's because of some sort of a fear that's holding you back.
Yeah, that's right. That's absolutely right. I love that. And acknowledge the fact that it's all weighed down by fear. That's the weight pulling it down. And to let it go gives you that feeling of lightness and moving forward. It propels you to no longer get stuck, but to move. Beautiful.
Right. Just imagine, and you're as old as I am, so you can remember some of these older movies, the black and white ones, the prison movies where they had the ball and chain wrapped around your leg. Yeah. Imagine if I had, for everything that you were, shunning away from, if I had one ball of chain for that and wrapped around your leg, you'd be walking around through life with like 50 or maybe more. I mean, in my case, I had over 100 balls and chains wrapped around my leg. How hard is that to move? How hard is that to run, to fly and soar to new heights? We're just dragging that around with us wherever we go.
Absolutely. It's akin to viewers on Facebook that's asking us about, 2021 coming across the corner, is around the corner, and people are anxious. Anxiety is at its highest. And I think you've answered that in this question. It's being able to break free from some of the things that have weighed you down. And as I love that analogy. You can see those chains pulling you down, but are you vulnerable enough to see them? Are you in awareness to see them? And a lot of times, when we do our coaching, and with the program that you're doing as well, where we help you see what's holding you tight. Because if you want to move forward in life, in anything in life, if something's holding you back, no matter how strong you are, if you don't cut that, if you don't break free, even if you have all the tools to sprint, Saahil, you ain't running anywhere. You're going to be stuck to that wall till you break free. So beautifully said, which now brings me to my next point. Back to 2020. You made an amazing, you had this this thing that you said to me the other day, which I'm going to let you say, is you said, Raj, let's look at 2020 and make a list. Let's talk about that list.
The thank you list. That's brilliant. So, Rajiv, there's so many things that have happened. We've gone through our ups and downs. But the one thing we have to identify and be thankful for are all the good things about it. It's like I said earlier, when you're in the valley, you sometimes forget about it. So get a pen and paper out and just look. Everything you're thankful for specific to 2020. Example.
So
I'm
you broke
because I realized
So we had a little lag there. So just so that I can fill in the gap where the lag came in, what I heard you say is make a list of things that you're grateful and thankful for in 2020. Is what you're saying.
Yes.
It's silent. It's brilliant because
I'll give you an example.
I'll just say one thing before you give me this example there. Saahil, it's brilliant because you're switching the focus for us. You're showing us that it's not only about focusing on all the bad things, which is kind of the clutter that we've all been focused on, but focus on the beautiful gifts, because in every adversity there is a learning, there's a lesson. So you were saying your example.
I love what you said. You can change your lens. Instead of asking yourself, why me? You ask yourself, what did this teach me?
Beautiful.
So here's an example. I learned the value of sleep. I used to wake up with an alarm, and during COVID, when I stopped using an alarm, I actually started to sleep a little bit more. And when my body was re-energizing and healing before, I was able to every single day. I'm thankful to COVID for the time it gave me with the family.
Yes.
We spend so much wonderful moments together. And it made me realize how much I love spending time with them. Now I need to do much more. And the list goes on and on.
That's beautiful. Saahil, I appreciate you a lot, man. I mean, you're one of those people that every time I speak to, I just feel way more inspired, and I'm grateful for you, for the way you think and for the way you release us from clutter, buddy. It's we don't give you enough tribute when we think about it, but those words, the power of the words breaking free, and by acknowledging the things that, the lessons that we can learn, being grateful for what we do have in our life. I love your reflection for a second, because I told someone recently, if you've been fortunate enough in this year to have been with your family, some people are not, but those that have been, I said in a conversation, I said, just look around you. This is the most important people in your life, and you're spending your whole time with them. Usually you'd be somewhere else and you'd spend a little time with them, but this is precious. And I've seen meetings take place now, and literally I'm responsible for them too, where my son will walk in and we're on a meeting, or I'm speaking, and either where I'm on a webinar or speaking, he'll come and sit on my lap. And it's beautiful. I won't stop talking. I'll keep it going. And he's part of that conversation for a second. Where in the world would that have happened? It would have never happened in the past. It can happen today. So we've acknowledged the humanity in being here. And with the humanity, I transition to one more point. One that you brought up the other day again, which is very powerful with this. You spoke about breaking free. You spoke about being grateful. But before moving forward, there was one more step you were talking about.
You also have to forgive.
Yes. Beautiful.
There's a lot that's happened, and it comes back to what I said earlier. What did it teach me? Not why me. But let's talk about forgiveness a little bit more, because it's a delicate subject. For years, I didn't forgive for a particular incident that happened in my life. And what happens when you don't forgive? You have this negative energy that's churning inside of you. And it's causing damage both physically and mentally. But why aren't we letting go? Is it our ego? Usually forgiveness and ego clash. But let me give you, let me tell you what forgiveness is not. It doesn't make the offense okay. It doesn't mean you have to reconcile. It doesn't take away the consequences. And it's not about them. It's about you. This is the most important point. It's not about them, it's about you. Why are we giving so much power to someone else or an incident to have control over our emotional well-being? It's almost like they're the puppet master. It's crazy. And what I did is I explained to people reasons why they should forgive, and here's some. Forgive because you have been forgiven. I don't know about you, but I was a very holy child, and I did lots of crazy things, but I was forgiven every single time. So that means I should forgive too.
Saahil, when you think about what you're saying, and you put your mind to it from this space of compassion to yourself, and you say you're forgiving, and I heard you say this, is you're forgiving for yourself. It's part of breaking free. Otherwise it holds you back, and it doesn't allow you to, as much as you want to put the power outside of you, you're taking it back, accepting it back. I love the clarification you did for us, because many people argue that, hey, wait a second, I don't really want to reconcile, or I don't want to, or I have to. I love how you brought that to context, and you said, listen, wait a second, it's not even about that. It's about the emotional cords. I keep on reflecting back to those chains. It's those chains that keep on pulling you back. Beautifully said. Saahil, I want to take a second now, because we've covered so many golden points. I'm going to have Soumya put up some of the takeaways for everyone, so they can see some of the things we've covered, because there's so many golden nuggets. Like I said, you keep on throwing golden nuggets our way, so I don't want to lose it. So while we spoke about these 4 things, and I know the 5th one is one we'll talk about as we move forward, but in summary of our conversation, as we are looking back at 2020 today, as we are trying to break free and move forward, you spoke about how we can be in awareness, how making that gratitude list today enables you to see what good has come out of this year that we bring with us in 2021. Addressing a question about anxiety here today, it's being able to break free so that you don't have to be anxious. You want to add anything to that question? Because a good question. Some people who are anxious and they're going to 2021, wouldn't letting go of some of this clutter, being able to forgive, wouldn't that make them less anxious?
100%.
Yeah.
It's carrying that with you, thinking about it, it's just always going to add stress and anxiety. Let me give you an example as well. By holding on and not letting go, you're thinking about it a lot. And people tell me that time heals. But I can tell you with 100% certainty, time does not heal. Time just suppresses. Right? Wow. So if you don't take this head on and face it and really work on yourself and process and reflect so that you can break free, and by removing the clutter, there will be triggers in your life where it's going to come back. You hear a song, it comes back. You see an image, it comes back. Somebody says something, the memory triggers. Yeah. You can't just forget it and hope it doesn't come back, because you're still dragging it with you. It's like a pile of t-shirts. Just because the one on the bottom hasn't been worn for a long time, because you keep stacking them up every time it comes back from laundry, when you do a spring clean, you will see it. And then you go, oh my goodness, it's still there.
That's beautiful. I love that analogy. I want to, Sahil, I really, I see what you're saying, and you know, when you now look at it from as an observer, you've taken these steps as a, you know, you watch someone take these steps, or you yourself take these steps, and you let go of this weight, and only then does point number 5 show up for you, doesn't it? If you want to start to transform an ideal future, if you want to start to work on your purpose and showing up in this world, you can't do it while you're tied up to that chain, right? So I keep seeing that as, if more of us had this kind of clarity with the way you explained it, you know, and accept the fact that there's nothing wrong with the fact that all of us have it, and we just have to do the. I love the spring cleaning. You spoke that T-shirt. It's hilarious. How many times have we not pulled out that T-shirt, which we didn't even know we still have, because it's sitting there, and it's just, we are tucking away so many things that tug at us, and until you don't release that stuff, are you able to move forward? And as a coach, look, we both work together with clients. We do this ideal life thing, and it's, you know, there's so many people that I wish would have experienced letting go of some stuff so that they can be clear to move forward. And then as we work on moving forward, then the path starts laying out, and they can actually start taking the steps proactively in control, right? And that's
right.
beautiful.
Let me share one analogy here, right? As a mountain climber, when I'm climbing the mountain, if I have a lot of extra weight, whether it's physical or mental, you know what happens? It requires more energy. Right. It's going to take longer, and I may not even reach the summit. I've reduced my chances of reaching the summit. And it's the same with this, you know, clutter, the shunned confrontation that we just spoke about. You're making your life harder. It's going to cause a lot more, you know, anxiety, and you may not even reach your summit.
Wow, I love
this.
Think
about that.
Yeah, absolutely. You've got my mind reeling. And at this point, I see Nisha has joined us as well. I want to invite Nisha on, because she extends what you and I do, and then she looks at it from people who are stuck, you know. And so it's a great time for her to join us. So while she joins us, Saahil, I really love that analogy. Today I walk away remembering that clutter is shunned conflict. I'm writing that down, and I'm going to put it down. And Nisha, I don't know if you heard that, but that's something that we write down.
Yeah, absolutely. So as I was listening, you know, Raj, you were saying, think of questions and something that pops up, but it's so beautiful. But you know, Saahil, I couldn't even put it in better words. The last point that you all were discussing was so important, that yes, we're on our journey to our summits, and you know, it is important to let go of some of that extra weight. And so I think the only thought I will share here, or maybe invite you, Saahil, to discuss this a little bit more, is that journey, so from the mental health and well-being space, is one that is intimidating. And I'm not talking about the journey of climbing up the mountain, actually the journey of letting go of the weights. So to some of the listeners who might be tuning in right now, what do you want to say to those who might be intimidated, or even afraid, or, you know, curious about that process of letting go of this extra weight? What would you say to them? And do you have any thoughts along that line?
So I'm going to share something from what I read in a book titled Untethered Soul by Michael Singer, because it explains it so well. You know, he says that we're all like dogs with a shock collar around our neck, and we think we're free, but there's this electric fence around us that we can't see. And every time we get close to this electric fence, we start to feel the pain, and we say, you know what? I'm going to go back into my comfort zone. Yeah. I repeat, I'm going to go back into my comfort zone. But if you really want freedom, you have to understand the pain. You have to accept the pain and know that it's only temporary, because as you break through, as you break free, on the other side is freedom.
Beautiful.
You know, I know that I took many steps back to go into my comfort zone. So start with the ones that aren't the Mount Everest. Start with the smaller mountains, right? Because you need momentum.
Yes.
Once you break free from something that is smaller, that you feel, yes, I can do this, I can achieve it. I know there will be pain, but it's okay. And once you see the benefits and feel the benefits, you're like, okay, wow, this is amazing. What's next? You know, let me tackle the next one, and gradually build it up.
Beautiful.
Brilliant. Brilliant.
So
I'm telling you, this conversation could go on forever, because whenever we all get together, this conversation, it for us is magical. But I think for today, Saahil, I want to say that you have shared, you shone the light. What's the best way to say this? You continue to shine the light. I'll say you continue to shine the light. Let's not make it pass. Let's continue moving forward. You continue to shine the light for all of us, and bless you for all the amazing things you're doing. I can't wait to do so much more with you. And at the same time, to all the listeners that are out there, you know, we see a new year coming up, a new opportunity, as you have the chance to step into your own light and look at all the things in your life that no longer serve you. In the words of Saahil, that have held you back. Find ways that you can break free so that you can take that leap to show up with purpose in this world, so that we can create a positive impact, so that we as mankind, as we all come together to make this beautiful world even more beautiful, so that our children and our children's children can enjoy the gifts that we've been given. And we don't take it for granted, but in the journey, we show up as this beautiful light that every single person is. So with that, guys, Nisha, Saahil, thank you so much for always adding this, this amazing value to everything you say and do. Thank you for who you guys are.
Rajiv, I just have one thing for a closing.
Please.
If I may.
Of course.
It's a story about a sailor who went to the captain and said, "Captain, can I get my pay today?" And the captain said, "Come tomorrow." So the next morning, the sailor's all excited, goes back to the captain. Captain, you promised me the pay today. Can I get it?" With a big smile on his face, only to hear the captain say, "Hey, didn't I tell you tomorrow?" So you see, tomorrow never comes. Right. You've learned so many, wonderful things. You've taken away some golden nuggets. Don't wait till tomorrow. Apply them today.
Beautiful. Well said. Nisha, you want to say something before we go?
Yeah, just one thing related to our tagline here, Shine Your Light, which is right above. 2020 has shone the light, if you will, in many aspects of our lives. It's made clear what's working for us and what's not working for us. So in line with what Saahil and Raj has just shared, take a moment as the year winds down to reflect on these things and decide for yourself to act. Take even one small step in the direction to make the changes, and we'll see you on the other side of a brighter 2021.
I love that. That's a beautiful way to end. Listen, guys, Merry Christmas and a Happy New Year to everyone. Thank you, all the viewers.
Bless you all.
Take care.